Hello, everyone, and welcome to Hit and Hustle from IrishSportsDaily.com. I am your host, Greg Flammang, and with me, as always, is Jamie Uyeyama, Mr. Jamie University. It is Tuesday, February 10th. Notre Dame released their official spring roster. That's come out. So we've got everyone who is going to be on campus for Notre Dame and for the football team and participating in the spring. We're going to go over that roster, and we're going to look at all the players involved who are going to be, participating, who we're looking forward to, who needs to have a big spring for them, who might, in our minds, who might break out and things like that. We're going to talk a little Super Bowl and talk about diamonds in the rough for Notre Dame as Julian Love had a big Super Bowl game. For the Super Bowl champions, Seattle Seahawks. Going to be a very fun show. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in today. If you like what you hear, please hit that like button. Please hit subscribe. Please hit the notification bell so you know whenever it is we are going live. And as always, the show is brought to you by ESQ Clothing, founded by Notre Dame alum Ge Wang. You've seen ESQ and all of your favorite Notre Dame players and coaches, from All-Americans to All-Pros and associates to CEOs. You're in great hands with ESQ's custom clothing. Whether you're looking for a perfect fitting suit, a standout sport coat, or a perfect tuxedo for wedding galas, ESQ's Master Tailors blend traditional hand stitching in each garment with Italy and England's best fabrics. Check out Ge's amazing work at esqclothing.com and book an appointment to upgrade your wardrobe today. Mention ISD and get 10% off your entire purchase. That's esqclothing.com. Really quickly, Daniel Hartnett, before we get going here, before I introduce my man, Jamie, any updates on the Porter knee? No updates on that. May not get one until
We're not going to get any of that until.
I mean, we may not hear anything about it. Like
we'll probably hear something we'll either hear something on the first day of spring, or
when Marcus Freeman speaks.
Yes, and he doesn't do which is smart anyways. I always thought hey, before spring I'm going to talk about stuff. It's like, it's better to actually watch the first practice and then ask the questions after, because sometimes people ask questions like, well, if I knew Quincy Porter was going to be out, I would have asked, or whatever. Like, people,
right.
That happens all the time. So we'll see if he's not out there at the beginning of spring or something, then or if he's doing certain stuff or whatever, then someone will ask about it, or usually he'll recap, injuries and stuff like that at the beginning of spring. So
Paulo 27 says good morning from everyone. Overcasted LA. It is overcast. We get no sympathy from anyone.
Get out of here. Get out of here, Paulo.
Forecast. So Seattle wins
here for months here.
Hey, Seattle wins the Super Bowl, right? I believe you have family in Vancouver. Is that where Seattle? Was Seattle, are the fans of are your parents?
A lot of my parents aren't, but there's a lot of my friends that I grew up with. A ton of people out in Vancouver are Seahawks fans. That's their team. They go down. There's a big Canadian contingent of people that go down to games all the time. Obviously it's only a couple hours away. So a lot of my friends super excited about it, and they're enjoying it. It is actually hilarious though how I saw many of my friends who didn't care about the Seahawks at all for most of their lifetimes, then all of a sudden when they were Legion of Boom, they're rocking Seahawks gear all the time. I'm like, you bandwagon losers. Just people they're all of a sudden pretending they've been Seahawks fans for life this whole time. But honestly, that really kind of I think sparked it for so many people. Obviously they've always had loyal fans, everybody knows the 12s there, but after that Legion of Boom run with Pete Carroll and all those guys, that really kind of exploded, and people have been pretty diehard since then.
Let me ask you something. We didn't touch on this during the playoffs for baseball. What was the deal with everyone crying in the stands for like the Mariners. Is that normal for Seattle people? Is it just because they don't win that much? Is that what the
They don't
deal?
win at all. They don't
Right.
win at all. So it's like it honestly like for it, it is one of those franchises. First of all, they've never been to the World Series. Never been to the World Series. Barely made the playoffs. Like, and it's not like one of those things where it's like, well, you look at some of these small market teams like Pittsburgh or whatever, right? Well, Pittsburgh's not even a small market. They're just owner's cheap, whatever, right? But like you look at like the Pittsburgh Pirates and you look at like they don't spend any money. They don't even try to win. Like why do they even exist really if you think about it? Like they've been cheap for 30 years. Well, the Mariners don't go crazy with it, but they've tried to win. And even though they've had like big free agent signings over the years and haven't, and it just has never. And then they've obviously had iconic players and like Ken Griffey Jr. and Ichiro, and it's one of the few franchises that you would say there's like, they have multiple Hall of Famers to have played there, and they never even really like sniffed the World Series, and like basically that was really the first time since Ichiro's rookie year, 2001, I believe, that was the first time that Mariners actually was like, oh my God, they might have a chance at winning it all. So there's just a lot of people. It's like they spent their whole lifetimes. It's like they've gone is just like experience heartbreak.
Yeah.
So that's why there's a lot of that. And
I do think like maybe that sort of phenomenon is a little bit more common, but for whatever reason, the cameras were like trained on like
it wasn't like the whole crowd was crying. There's like there's probably like 20 people out of 20,000 or something.
I will say this, as someone who's always followed sports or whatever, my two biggest Mariners memories are the Edgar Martinez double and Ken Griffey Jr. flying around for first. Was that 95 against the Yankees?
Yeah.
So that was electric. I remember watching that live and being like, this is incredible. Like Ken Griffey Jr. never run faster in his life. And the other main Mariners highlight is Randy Johnson beating the Twins in Little Big League. Ken Griffey Jr. also making a great catch in center field to rob I can't remember his name.
Timothy Busfield or whoever
Timothy
it was.
Busfield, who's
now is like a disgrace. Okay, forget that we mentioned
the disgraced Timothy Busfield. You know what? I'm glad it didn't work out for him. I'm glad Ken Griffey Jr. stole it from him. It didn't work out. And plus he was also like not a true believer in Field of Dreams. So get out of here, guy.
Oh yeah. Never forgave him for that.
Yeah. What a monster. All right.
Pushes Seattle niece off the thing.
Hopefully those Seattle fans are happy now that the Seahawks win the Super Bowl. Julian Love and Riley Mills have key moments in the game. Julian Love with an interception, Riley Mills with a sack. No stranger to sacking Drake May, as he did in 2022 against North Carolina. I was thinking, it made me think about the Julian Love thing. I want to get your thoughts on this. There's been a lot of I'll call them diamonds in the rough, right? And I'm not trying to it doesn't have to be a 3-star, whatever. It's like someone who's like super not highly rated recruit or whatever, right? Julian Love was one of those guys. We're not gonna count Joe Alton this because he is the answer to the question. He is the best diamond in the rough guy. But like I want to say Julian Love, Ian Book, JOK, Jeremiah Wusu-Koramoah, and Kyron Williams. And Kyron, like you said before, Kyron Williams was a 4-star, but when he committed, he may not have been a 4-star when he committed. You said he was. There's kind of like multiple services, but he wasn't like a high.
He wasn't a hype. It wasn't hyped. Yeah.
So who out of those guys, like Kyron Williams, first team All Pro. So he's been like really, really good. Ian Book hasn't been a great pro, but obviously has the most wins in Notre Dame history for a quarterback. Obviously, Julian Love just wins a Super Bowl with the Seahawks, and he's been kind of a mainstay in the NFL in terms of being a starter with first the Giants and now the Seahawks. He's doing really well. And then JOK, he was like a great career at Notre Dame, won the Butkus, but he's been injured a bunch for the Browns. So where do you kind of come out on that as like kind of the best diamond in the rough guy at Notre Dame in the last like 15 years?
I think strictly from the Notre Dame time, I think it has to be. I mean, I think JOK is right up there with Joe Alt. I mean, he won the Butkus Award.
He did win the Butkus, yes.
He was incredible that year, like just incredible. And he was really good the year before too. And especially being someone who, he came to Notre Dame and I really liked his film. By the way, I have to mention I had him as a 4-star.
Jamie,
I got to say I had him.
Jamie University had him as a 4-star.
I had him as 4-star. He was an incredible high school football player. Incredible, like just two-way stud. Also, Julian Love, another two-way stud in high school.
Yeah.
Seems like a pretty good thing if a guy's a dominant player on both sides of the ball. Chances are that's a pretty good take. For someone to take in your class. I think it's JOK who out of those guys. I think, but there's like a bunch of other guys I wanted to like honorable mention, like Tommy Tremble, because I know he's not as good as those guys, but when we're talking about, he was the second tight end in that class, less heralded for sure, was just an absolute battering ram of a blocker and, end up being a 3rd round pick. I think Drew White.
I was going to say Drew White. Yeah.
Drew White, by the way, who I also had as a 4-star, completely unhyped.
I think he was the lowest rated player in the class.
He came in. Another one of those stupid things because he was literally the defensive player of the year in the state of Florida. Seems pretty good. Seems pretty good for St. Thomas Aquinas, who they play like big time competition all the time. And it turns out he was a multi-year starter for Notre Dame, right? Like
he was a captain.
Captain, multi-year starter, pretty good player. And certainly not at the level of those other guys, but still, like for a guy who, wasn't really, super hyped up. I think Mitchell Evans is another guy who was, quarterback because it was like COVID year and didn't really like get all that hyped up, but ended up being, really good player for Notre Dame. Kurt Heinisch, another guy. But I think those guys I think are above. I think it's hard because Kyron Williams, because he's a skill guy.
Yeah.
And he had so many more moments because of that. It's like easy to just pick him and say like, wow, but I almost think because if Jeremiah Love didn't come along and it was like, oh my gosh, Jeremiah Love is just at next level, then people would still be talking about Kyron Williams. It's like, oh my gosh, this guy's the best back that Notre Dame has had in a couple decades or whatever. But he doesn't get in that category because Jeremiah Love was just so great. I know Jeremiah Love was rated higher than him, but
we should probably mention Xavier Watts.
Yeah.
Me Xavier especially, Watts. like a total disaster that I'm not mentioning him.
Xavier Watts, absolutely. And another thing is that Cam Hart, another guy.
Yeah.
Right. So they've had some guys, definitely, right? Like a lot of, Ade Ogundeji got like guys who weren't the Maris Leofau, Jack Kaiser. These guys weren't hyped up, right? They weren't hyped up, end up being really, really good players. I think everybody we named was an NFL draft pick, right? So, except for Drew White, but I mean, he obviously was a good college player, but a lot of really good players there. I would go with JOK.
I think that's fair. He was, like you said, one Butkus, unanimous first team All-American. I believe Julian Love was a first team All-American, unanimous as in 2017. He had something like 20 some pass breakups, something like that. I think the kind of the main point of this is like really, these are really good options in terms of like first team All-American, first team All-Pro, defensive player of the year, Xavier Watts, and to be fair, Okay. Kyle Hamilton. When he committed, he was like in the thousands. Now, people figured it out, and he became a top 100 player. When he committed, he was definitely in the thousands. I will say this though.
When he was offered, yes, that was absolutely.
It doesn't really count because the schools knew. Ohio State, Clemson, Georgia were all after him. The schools were very well aware that he was good. So it wasn't like some of these guys are like these offer lists are not that great. Whereas Kyle's were like everyone knew. It was just the services for whatever reason couldn't figure it out. But again, congratulations to Julian Love and Riley Mills. I think Riley Mills was his first game that he played.
I don't know.
Because he had been hurt.
Yeah, he had been hurt.
Yeah. So he comes in there and gets 2 sacks or a sack in the Super Bowl. That's kind of fun.
JD Bertrand, another good one. Thanks, guys, for that suggestion.
Yeah.
This is what I want to mention about JD Bertrand too.
Oh,
because that is a perfect example of somebody who, like, he was committed to Georgia. Like, Georgia dropped him. And normally you think, and technically, before he committed to Notre Dame, before there was a scholarship available. So they were going to give him,
it was like him and Marist were like, are they going to gray shirt? It was that whole conversation. Yeah.
So to go from something like that, where usually if you think about like, wow, this guy got dropped by whatever, Georgia or whoever, man, he was a baller. Like, he was an absolute baller. So that's just one of those things too, where like, I bet, I mean, obviously Georgia had some unreal linebackers during that time. Yeah, he could have played at Georgia too. Like, he was a really good player.
Yeah. So, congratulations to the Super Bowl champions. That's great for them. And Julian Love, really good ambassador for Notre Dame, as is Riley Mills. All right, let's talk about the incoming freshmen. Maybe some diamonds in the rough here. Let's just look at some height and weights, Jamie. We love height and weight. Some of these guys who, like, if they're not on campus or whatever, like sometimes when I get like Kari Adams right on top is 6'1", 185. I don't like it when it's 185. That's too clean, right? I like the 218 from Thomas Davis, right?
Yeah.
That makes me think like it's a real weight. Let's see. Just some highlights that I kind of noticed. Rodney Dunham, 6'4", 225. Good enter weight in terms of like he can bump up over the spring and summer and get to 230s and be ready to go as someone who you want to contribute. Caden Finley is 6 foot 212. That's a thick boy. He's got some beef to him. So that's going to be good in terms of him getting on the field. 6'2", 205 for Devin Fitzgerald. Like to see the 6'2" on there. How reliable it is, we don't know, but what that remains to be seen.
I think height wise, they do a pretty good job of trying to be reliable about it.
Yeah.
Because like, if you look at like, say like Braden Robinson, although, okay, this says 5'8" here.
The other one said 5'7".
5'7". See, this is why we get mad. Like, come on.
That's what I'm saying. Well, it's very frustrating. I do want to go in on Aiden Pouncey, or not go in. I want to discuss it. 6'3", 179. I assumed he'd be closer to 200.
This is another thing. 179. It says like 173 on the other one.
Yeah. What is it, Notre Dame? Maybe, he was he's fasting or something. But in the 170s, let's say in the 170s. Did that surprise you? I thought he was bigger. I thought he was thicker than that.
Okay. I thought he was thicker than that too. But I want to point out too, because I'm seeing all kinds of things on here. 6'2", 220, Jacoby Clapper says 209 on the other one. So,
and to be clear, this is Notre Dame's press release that I'm putting out.
Yes.
So I'm not. This isn't something that we put together. It's Notre Dame.
I don't want to get on whatever. I'm
just saying it's not.
Media department does a good job. It does do a good job.
It isn't our graphic, is what I'm saying. It's Notre Dame's graphic.
The media department does a good job, but let's proofread it next time.
You're making it hard. Did anyone? We can take this off screen, because if it's not good, did anyone stand out to you in terms of positive or negative It's like I don't know if this guy's going to be ready physically, or someone. It's like, oh, okay, we're green light from a physical standpoint.
I mean, I think, like Chatzen Smith being like 163 pounds, that of course that's going to stand out, right? Like that is going to stand out. Um, not that I expected him to be like 190 or anything like that, but
yeah,
it stands out because then you almost put him as an automatic cross off. Like it's like, well, there's no way that, at least right now, he has to be unbelievably outstanding, and then they have to say, well, we got to get weight on you. Like, that needs to happen. So, and I would say too, like, not that I knew he was small, but like Braden Robinson, 5'7", 156 is like, I mean, it's tiny, right? That is Tutu Atwell. That is,
yeah.
like,
I was gonna say it is Tutu Atwell for sure.
Yeah, so that is, I mean, that does stand out. Okay, yeah. So like here, I'm looking at the other one because Kari Adams 6'1", 178 here. So it's all over the map with some of this stuff, but I think 230 for Rodney Dunham. That stands out in a good way, in a really positive way. If he's coming in at 230, because I think that's he's someone that, if he came in at where Ewatade is, under 220, and then I would think, I don't know if Rodney Dunham's going to play this year, actually, even though he's sky high thing, or if he plays, he can only play situationally and whatever. 230, he could be 240 by the season. That is possible. Like that is possible. And you could play at 6'4", 240 as a true freshman. You can play. Mm-hmm. So that, that stands out. I think Grayson McKeel, 6'7", 294. That stands out. Like that really, really stands out because he's obviously put on a lot of weight. He's really good size coming in. He's a big dude. So that stands out. Preston Friesel, 6'4", 208, not unexpected, but yeah, just also one of those things where just like it stands out. Like, yeah, he's gonna need time. He's gonna need time, and he's gonna have to physically develop and all that. But Dylan Faison being 6'2", I think that is something like, I don't know if he's really 6'2", but I think that just kind of backs up the fact that he's not his brother. Like he's bigger than his brother. Mm-hmm. Like, so he's a little bit different in that way. I think Pouncey, that 172 is what he's listed on this thing. That stands out. I still think Pouncey still has a chance to play this year. Like I think
he's 6'3".
6'3" is 6'3". Also, like if you're 6'3" and you're 172, I think he could, be around 180-ish. Like that is possible.
Yeah.
And he can play at 180 as a freshman. I think that's possible. Yeah. So that stands out. I mentioned Ewatade, who's like, I thought he was going to be, but that's whatever. Like also Kadon Finley, 6'1", 200. Like that's a good weight to come in at. Like that's a really, really good weight, and kind of like he physically already looks the part too. So that stands out.
Yeah. I feel like I'm going to monitor him in the spring. I wonder if he's going to turn some heads, and just in terms of like his game already, and the fact that he's physically ready to go as well. I mean that graphic said 220. Like that sounds way too, like that's a big dude. Like that sounds way too much. 220. Jared Slaubaugh asked about who's going to pop at wide receiver in the spring. We'll get to that in just a second. We're going to go through the position groups here. Just to kind of go through everyone and kind of get our early thoughts on just the groups and who's gonna make an impact and things like that. Obviously, we're looking at quarterbacks here, right? CJ Carr, Blake Hebert, and Noah Grubbs. Obviously, this is like a huge spring for Blake Hebert specifically, because he is the one quarterback who was on the roster last year who is not CJ Carr, right? So, is he viable as a backup? Has he learned enough? Can he be accurate enough? Can he run the offense? Can he move the team? right? Like all of these reps that he is about to get. And I know everyone's kind of in that, like, everyone's having that, the Peyton Manning, we don't practice screwed kind of conversation. And I know everyone is saying that now because nothing's wrong with CJ Carr. But I guarantee you, no one is going to be prepared when the season comes. If a backup has to come in, that they're just going to be like, well, Notre Dame's screwed. Like, no one's going to feel like that. Right. So they do have to get Blake Hebert ready to go because it's just too much to ask on Noah Grubbs. If it happens for Noah Grubbs, then congratulations to him. That's good, right? Like, that is a bonus. You have a quarterback who Notre Dame decided to bring in last year. So after they lost Deuce Knight, you had to bring in someone. You brought in Blake Hebert. They got to get him ready. You got to see if he's viable. Like, I think that his reps this spring are going to be super important. And the good thing is that he's a big guy. He's a mobile guy. He is a good athlete. He can move the team, right? And I think there's a difference between it's got to look a certain kind of way in terms of CJ Carr and can you just move the team down the field? It'll be interesting to see if Blake Hebert can do that. What do you think, Jamie?
Yeah, I think that, and also too, he's not CJ Carr. Be who you are. Like,
yeah,
play your game. He's more of a runner. He's like he's a good athlete.
Mm-hmm.
That's who he should be. Like, lean into that kind of thing because that also makes him different than Grubbs too, right?
Yeah.
So be that guy. And obviously you want to do all the things like, win from the pocket, be accurate, like you said. But I think that's ultimately he has to like lean into his strengths to kind of like separate, what makes him. And I think too, that's one of the things that like helped Kenny Minchie kind of separate himself from a Steve Angeli, right? Was that, well, he's more mobile and he can do this. And that's also why Minchie almost won the job.
Yeah.
Because he had that element, right? So, I think that's pretty important. Obviously, this is a super critical spring for him because if he comes out of the spring and like Grubbs is the number 2 coming out of this spring, you can pretty much call it for at that point because Gerard is coming,
right?
And they're not going to be like, well, let's give Hebert more opportunities. Now it's not happening. He's got to earn it this spring.
Yeah. Running or wide receivers. Let's talk about wide receivers. They're next on the list. Who on this list here is someone that you kind of see popping, let's just say in the spring, right? Like, the question from Jared was like, don't worry about it translating into the fall or whatever. Just like, who can you see having a big spring given whatever opportunity they might have?
I mean, I could see Micah Gilbert.
Yeah, he was the first person that came to mind for me.
I could see Micah Gilbert. Because the one thing is Micah Gilbert, unfortunately, he's gotten hurt. The last year he was hurt a lot, but every other time that when he was healthy, he was doing things and making people notice. And frankly, like, because it was asked about Porter's injury. Well, we don't know. We don't know anything yet.
Right.
Well, that's a perfect example of like, well, if he's not, guess what? It's all there for Gilbert to show out and be like, hey, don't forget about me. Like, don't forget about me. Like, this is my spot. He can go and take it. Right. So I think, he's a guy that really stands out for me. I would guess out of the freshmen, I do think Kadon Finley is someone who's going to like show right away that like, yeah, he's ready. He can play early. And then another one too is Elijah Burris. I think for me, he already really flashed last spring and last fall camp. Like, he flashed, but then he would do things like he looked like the best young receiver on the team last year in the full practice that we saw. But then he had like 3 drops.
Yeah.
So it's just like, I think, a lot of that kind of stuff gets kind of like cleaned up. This time, if he gets that cleaned up, then to me, he should be right there, because you expect like Mylan Graham. Like I do think Mylan Graham is probably gonna, be impressive there too. But I do think the guys that are returning, that have a chance to really kind of show something, like people aren't talking of they're thinking about Graham and Porter more than they are about even any of the freshmen or the guys that are coming back, like Burris or Gilbert. And I think those guys, are going to be pretty motivated and have a really good spring.
These guys, like this receiver group in the spring, like it's going to be such a competitive environment because you have Burris, who, like you said, showed a lot last year. He had the drops, but like for him, he's probably thinking like, okay, I've been in the program and like I'm taking a jump, like he gets physically stronger. He's been in the playbook. He kind of knows how things work with Notre Dame's offense. And he's like, I'm going. Like, this is my time. And then you have someone like Mylan Graham, who they kind of both like, are they both going to play the field? Are they both going to be vying for those snaps behind Jordan Faison, right? If they're moving Jordan Faison around, if they're playing 10, like who is going to be that field player? Like they're just going to be like, that's going to be a great competition, And then you also have someone like Logan Saldate, right? So obviously Jaden Greathouse is there and he's entrenched as a slot. But you also have Caden Finley, who might be a slot, and Logan Saldate has this, there's been a lot of positive buzz around him, but now there's someone younger than you on campus who it's like, hey, we also like this player a lot. And so those two guys, like you can't have like the third slot isn't getting a ton of reps. You can get the backup slot reps, but the third slot, no. And like Caden Finley wants those snaps. And obviously Logan Saldate wants those snaps, right? Like that is the kind of the pecking order there. I think Micah Gilbert is a great call because this is his chance to, I'm a junior now. I can get the majority of the boundary snaps. And it's like, he's got to stay healthy. I'm a big believer in his talent. I've always liked his talent. They put him in games like I don't know that he ever failed last year and when he had opportunities. So like, I think for him, he's got to be like, man, this is my time to entrench myself as the boundary while guys like Quincy Porter aren't healthy. And like Cam, he's just got to be able to beat out Cam. And I just think there's every reason to believe that Micah Gilbert is going to outplay Cam Williams in the spring. Obviously, it's a huge spring.
It's a huge spring for Cam Williams. And I'd love to say that, like, I would have loved to him be the first guy that I mentioned. But I kind of got to see more. I got to see more for him before I will say if he ends up, that could be one of the biggest developments of the spring. If that happens, like if he, all of a sudden you're like, whoa, Cam Williams, he's ready to roll. Like this is like, that is would be a huge development for Notre Dame. And I think, Notre Dame fans should root for that to be the case. But he's got to show it, right? He's got to show it because it's just one of these things where, it's got to happen at some point. And now it's crowded. And if he isn't separating himself, then he's just stuck with the pack. That's going to be tough for him to ever get out of that because they just have too many bodies here. Look how many names are here. Like that's a lot of
17 guys. Yeah.
That's a lot of receivers. It's a lot of receivers. And like you said, if he's the second team, you still get a lot of reps.
Yeah.
If you're the third team, those reps are going to go. And this is another thing that I don't know if people know, but usually how it goes at the beginning of like spring or fall camp, preseason camp, the guys who are returning, they get the kind of benefit of the doubt at the beginning when it's like, okay, we're going with the ones. Okay, well, we're going to go Jason Onye and Elijah Hughes. You're going to be the first two defensive tackles out. Well, then all of a sudden, within a day or two, if Francis Brew looks like whatever or Tion Gray, those guys can bump up, and that's how it works, right? Well, it's the same thing, at receiver here, where Cam Williams might be above Mylan Graham to start the very first thing. He might be above him in he gets to go a little bit more reps or even reps or whatever. Well, if Mylan Graham has a better week than Cam Williams, then he's going to jump him, and that might be it.
Once you get past, that's usually it.
Unless somebody gets hurt. And what are you going to hope that someone gets hurt? Like, that's not the thing, right? Like, you have to really, really push there. So there's a sense of urgency for all those guys. And yeah, like you said, Soldate going into his third year. Cam Williams going to his third year. Micah Gilbert going into his third year. Sense of urgency for those guys.
Yeah. And it's going to be really good. And at some point you like the Cam Williams thing, I like it. Like you said, I'd love to say it, but sometimes at some point you're just getting to your ratings. You're cheering for ratings, and the high school evaluation. And it's like,
he's been on campus for 3 years. Under the radar guys.
Yeah. He's been on campus for 3 years. Like, the rating doesn't matter anymore. Now it's just like, what do you have that Micah Gilbert doesn't, or that Quincy Porter doesn't, or that Mylan Graham doesn't? Like, that's what matters now. So we just got to see that. And I couldn't predict it, and I wouldn't predict it. Let's go to tight ends. Cooper Flammang is coming back, and he's going to be healthy. James Flammang, Preston Friesel, like you said, Henry Garrity, who's like kind of a walk-on, Jack Larson, Ty Washington. Ian Premer is not on here because he's not on campus yet. So that's why he's not going to be on the list. Obviously, James Flammang, I think there's been a ton of talk about him and what he can do. A lot of excitement around him. He's obviously going to have a big, a lot of eyes on him. Ty Washington, I don't want people to sleep on him. He's in his second year in the program, and so he's kind of entrenched in that. I want to see if there can be a role change for him. I've always liked Cooper Flammang. I think everyone's kind of always liked Cooper Flammang, so that's interesting. But all eyes on kind of James Flammang and whether or not he can take that tight end one role in the spring.
Yeah, absolutely. That's like the big thing for me, and I think that it'll be interesting to see like where Cooper Flannagan's at, like with his, recovery from his injury. Cause I would think that he's like, should be full go by now. And with all of that, they won't be like limiting him in any way. And like, I have a feeling that like Flammang and Washington will be the guys that are kind of like with that first kind of group working in there, because they've like actually done it. And like, if you look at like at the end of the year, Marcus Freeman spoke about how James Flammang was basically like, he's redshirting, but he will play in the playoffs. Like he's going to play, like we're keeping his red shirt, but he's ready to play now. And they were going to use him more. And they obviously used him in like the pit game and all that. Like, so that is another thing where it's like, if you're looking at like Jack Larson, well, I don't think like Jack Larson, if you just like watch a spring game, if you watch practice, whatever, like he shows up in like as a receiver, he does, but the other parts of the game, he has to advance there or else it's just over. Because I mean, Freisel's got, some physical development to do. But Ian Premer, and he's going to have some physical development too. But Ian Premer, he's not redshirting. Like I would be shocked to be redshirted. So it's like Jack Larson's kind of got to make a move, or else it's kind of like a little bit of like the Kane Barong situation where it's like Kane Barong looks pretty good, but he's never going to get stuck past this thing. So Larson really has to, make a jump.
Yeah, so that's going to be interesting to watch. And also, like, is Notre Dame trying to be a lot more 12, a lot less 12? I mean, they're a good bunch of 11 last year. So
a lot of receivers too. So
yeah, a lot of receivers. So that's going to be an interesting thing to track. Running back is just absolutely fascinating for me. Honestly, if you took these 5 guys, I don't know that you could tell me like it won't be like the top 2 won't be Nolan James and Aeneas Williams, or the top 2 won't be Nolan James and Javion Osborne. The only player who I would be kind of shocked is if they were in the top 2 was Jonas Walton, and that's just because he doesn't have he was kind of like an H-back kind of thing in high school. So he doesn't have that like I am the feature back thing in his background.
Well, some of it he was a H-back, but yeah.
Yeah, but it's just to me, it's like he doesn't have that I'm ready to be top 2 at Notre Dame. To me, I think it's going to take him a little bit. But also, what is he listed at? On the side, I don't want to pull up the other one. What is he listed at on the site in terms of size? I know he's like 5'9".
He's 5'9", 200.
Okay. He's 5'9", 200, and he runs 10.6.
Yeah. That's pretty good.
Like, it would surprise me if he was in the top 2, but he runs 10.6, man, and he's 200 pounds. So there's not a physical problem, right? So I think he very well in his future could be a top 2 back, right? I would say that's even likely, but like I don't know about next year. But any other of these guys, like if it's Kedron Young and Aeneas Williams, I could totally see it. If it's Kedron Young and Javion Osborne, I could totally see it. It's a fascinating spring at running back, maybe like the most since forever, right? I guess the Jeremiah Love, like after 22, the 23 season with Love and Price, or the 24 season, excuse me, with after the 23 season with Love and Price. I mean, maybe I think that, but
I think people thought that they were.
You kind of knew those were the 2 guys.
Yeah.
This could go in any direction, and it could go like in a very good direction as well. It's like it's one of those things where they do have 5, and they do have 5 good options. So I don't know. I think if I was to choose one where it's like, man, this guy is there's going to be a lot of buzz, I would choose Nolan James. But I'm curious to hear your thoughts.
Yeah. Completely agree with that sentiment that any of these guys, it really could be. And also it makes me think that they probably won't just roll with 2 this year, that it's probably going to be 3. And 2 guys is going to be, unfortunately, we're going to be kind of the odd men out, but that's just what it is. And I think when you're mentioning about like, you know, the most interesting, it could be like from a competition standpoint, I think back to 2015, and that was the year, obviously, Torian Folston was going to come back and like, well, he's RB1, right?
Right. Because he was a junior.
Yeah, but there were serious questions behind him. And if people remember, CJ Prosise got moved from receiver to running back, looked great in that spring.
Yes.
And then Folston was kind of like, they were like protecting him in that fall camp, because that was actually the very first camp that I covered for Notre Dame, and Folston like barely got reps for all the protecting they did of him, and then he hurt himself in the first game. But that was behind there. It was like Prosise is like, okay, now we know Prosise is good, but then it was going to be like one of the freshmen who was probably going to be the number 3, and everyone assumed it was going to be Dexter Williams.
Yeah,
like probably not Josh Adams. It's probably going to be Dexter Williams. Well, Josh Adams came into camp and he broke like a 70-yard run where he like dusted Max Redfield, like completely just like pulled away from him. And you could say a lot about Max Redfield as a football player. You can't say he wasn't fast. He could run. And he ran away from him. And it was one of those eye-popping things. You're like, wow, okay. Like Josh Adams, you know, introducing himself to everybody right now. And, you know, he obviously had a really good camp. He scored in that first game, right, on that jet sweep. And then later on, he ended up, you know, being a really important player for Notre Dame that year. And then had a great career. But that is one of those things where I think when it's a back and all these guys are talented, and it's like, yeah, you want to do a little things. So little things are going to stand out, like pass pro, all that kind of stuff, catching the ball, all that. But if one or two of these guys is all of a sudden like breaking long runs in spring, that is what gets you and separates you.
Yeah.
So that is the kind of thing that I would be like kind of looking for if like Nolan James comes out and he's like, wow, Aeneas Williams looks great, but Nolan James has like broken like 3 long runs in camp. Well, that might be the thing that gives him the edge. Or
Yeah.
Osborne or Walton, one of those things is like, well, we got to get this guy in the mix because he's just doing that. Like, so that's something to watch.
I think one of the 2 freshmen will get carries. One of them will. I don't know who, but I just think that they will. I also kind of think like if the Kedron Young like 226 thing is real, then that's super intriguing to me. I think a lot of him. If there was any, like, here's the thing: if there's one guy of the non-freshmen of those 3, of Nolan James, Aeneas Williams, or Kedron Young, and this is just their skill sets, right? If there's one guy who it's like I could see them just being like, "Hey, feed him the ball over and over again," I do think it's Kedron Young. I do think he has, like, I think he has the feet for it, and I think he has the. I don't want to say he has breakaway speed for it, but it's like he's also kind of someone. It's like, well, we don't want him to have a crease, you know, and so that he's very intriguing to me as well. I could see, like, honestly, I could see Nolan James and Kedron Young being the guys. And here we are again, like discounting Aeneas Williams,
yeah.
which seems ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. But it's just, that's my feeling on it. I do think if you say it's 3, he will absolutely have a role because he can be a good third down guy. You know that. And that's something we don't know about Kedron Young at all. In fact, we know that the least about Kedron Young. I think we know a little bit about Nolan James because I think they've kind of been grooming him for that. Or like that was kind of something that he was going to do last year if he was going to do anything. So it's just like, I don't think there's any way Aeneas Williams doesn't have a role on the team. It's just how big a role is it? It's going to be interesting to see. I'm super excited about the running backs and kind of following that, or how that goes. Same with wide receivers too, which makes for a very fun spring when the skill positions are kind of in flux like that. And I think a good way, we'll do the defense on Thursday, Jamie, because this is taking too long, which is good because there's a lot to talk about. But I think where you have a lot of options at the skill spots, a lot of exciting options. I think on the offensive line, it is good that you have experience and you have talent that's coming back. There's not a ton of questions on Jagusa. I don't imagine we're going to see him until summer, is kind of what we've heard. And that's just kind of the way it's trending. So just to kind of get that out there, what does Will Black look like? What does Matty Augustine look like? Where's Absher? Right? Where's Ashton Craig? Where's he at physically? Joe Otting, Gerby Lambert, is he playing right guard, right tackle? Anthony Knapp, I assume, will still be left tackle. There's a lot of questions, but you also kind of feel like have a good idea of the answers, and you kind of know the offensive line, regardless, is going to be good. And just to kind of put a cap on that part, it's a big spring for the running backs. It's a great group of offensive linemen that they get to run behind, because what you don't want, we've had in springs past, it's like the first group is good. You don't want to play them too much. The second group is just kind of non-viable, and the running backs don't get a chance to show anything. I think with this offensive line and the talent that they have, everyone's going to be running behind a strong group.
Yeah. And I mean, also too, you got like 20 offensive linemen. You better have a good 2 deep, right?
Yeah.
Like you better. And obviously, like you said, Jagusa, So that's one. So he would be in there, right? So that's one guy who's not going to be counted on. And then Craig obviously is, you know, not going to be there. So that's two guys there. But still, I think because they have 20 and they have enough guys there, they should be more than fine for the spring and to be able to have like really good shape. I mean, it's crazy. Like there's some springs where they had like 9 scholarship guys available. Like it's just it's a different time now, right? So I think what it does is, this spring, I gotta say, even after we already had the conversations about Joe Rudolph last week and all that kind of stuff, people gotta stop with he's got to get the best 5 out on the field. Like they didn't have the best 5 out on the field last year. Who else was coming out of the bench that they wanted to have in, or that they were gonna move around? Like they weren't going to move anybody around. Like it didn't make sense to play anybody else at a different spot. It made no sense. But this spring is perfect chance for Joe Otting. Obviously started the back half of last year. But if Joe Otting shows like, hey, I'm like starter caliber level, like this is like I should be playing. Well, then all of a sudden that changes maybe how you look at, say, well, maybe Ashton Craig, when he comes back, maybe he should be in the mix at guard. Like maybe that's something they do. And I'm not saying that's going to happen, but that is a possibility if Otting shows something. Because I don't think Otting is someone who can play guard, but I do think Craig could. He could play guard. No Jugasaw. So I assume that he would be in that right guard spot because I think that they're going to bump Gerby Lambert out to right tackle. Back to where he was last year.
Yeah.
So if they have Gerby Lambert out there, that right tackles or the right guard spot, I think what will probably happen, and this is one of those things that people say, like, well, Will Black should have been playing left tackle, this, blah, blah, blah. Will Black might be the guy who goes in there at right guard. He practiced at left guard last year. And he might go there and be like, wow, Will Black is our starting right guard there. Like that could happen. And then obviously Sullivan Absher worked at left guard last year. He's got to kind of prove that I'm of this level and I don't deserve to when I don't care if Jigsaw gets back, I got to earn that spot. So it's in a way, there's a lot of like internal competition there between guys who have already played and some of the younger guys, and someone like, or even Matty Augustine comes in and shows, man, you know what? I'm one of the 2 best tackles on the team. So I should play. And then maybe Lambert stays at guard or, Anthony Knapp, whatever, right? Like they decide to do something there, but someone else, you have to go in and prove it, right? You have to go in and prove it and show something. And I would say out of the guys that are, they're bringing back 6 guys who have started games. Jagusaw is obviously one of them. He's not going to be available. Craig's not going to be available. But 4 guys in the spring who have started games, and then you have Augustine and Black, I think are the 2 guys that have the best chance of breaking into the top group.
Yeah.
Out of there. Maybe somebody else gets there. Because I would say Styles Prescott maybe has a shot. He's been hurt a lot his first couple years on campus. And sometimes, like, JOK is a perfect example of like that injuries kind of held him back. And then all of a sudden, hey, he can do that. So maybe Styles Prescott is like someone who can do that. I certainly really like Styles Prescott as a recruit and like his potential there. I like maybe Owen Strebig took a big step and then he's like in a better could happen, right? I don't think that like Chris Tarrick, I don't think I've seen enough to say like, yeah, he's going to be there, but I don't know, maybe, right? Because maybe he's the Trevor Ruland of this group. And then he's just like a guy who's like, yeah, he's good enough to play there. And he's above some of these other younger guys. I wouldn't expect any of the true freshmen to do it. Then again, no one expected Anthony Knapp to show enough as a true freshman. Maybe one of those guys does something and shows something. So maybe Grayson McKeo is like, hey, this is why On3 has me as a 5-star. I'm here and this. So we'll see. It's an intriguing group, and I'm really excited to watch it.
Someone I'm going to be monitoring is Cam Heron. Not to play,
another guy,
but like, are you going to be the next center?
Yeah.
Like after this year, because they do. It's kind of how it is, right? Like you are going to line it up, and so is like, are you someone who is viable that way? And so that's going to be interesting to me if Cam Heron can make a jump, because I know they like him a lot. He just had to get bigger. What is he listed at?
He's at 292 now. So yeah,
Okay.
that's a good weight for him.
Yeah.
Certainly too. Like you don't have to be. Everyone's obsessed with like getting over the 300-pound mark. You can be 290 pounds to play center. That's fine.
He could be. And then plus, like he's 292. Let's say today. Well,
yes,
they're not playing today.
He was like 270 a year ago.
Yeah,
like so or maybe even under. So, he's put on good weight, and I'll say this: most of the time when you see somebody and they give you a very positive first impression of like, this is the first time I saw this person at practice at Notre Dame, very rarely has that guy, if I've seen somebody and they right away they make that great first impression, that guy hasn't become a player.
Yeah.
Like 99.9% of the time, those guys become a player. JOK, another example. Like he was like skinny kid. I'm like, oh my God, just seeing him move through drills, I was like, well, he's going to be a stud. He just needs to put weight on it, whatever. And then he was. Cam Heron, they're doing one-on-ones. Like I said, he's probably like 265, 270 pounds, true freshman. Going in against Jared Dawson, fifth-year defensive lineman. Jared Dawson, watch him this year. Everybody watch him. He was good. He's a good player for Notre Dame. Like stoned him twice in one-on-ones.
Yeah.
Then went against Rubio, stoned him. And you're like, okay, like this guy's going against, it's not like he was just going against the freshmen. He was doing it against vets. So when someone does that in the very first practice, I'm not saying you judge everything just off of one good day, but usually if someone's doing that right away, they're going to get better. And obviously he's gained more weight. He's gone stronger and all that. So, I'd say that's a perfect guy to bring up as someone to watch for maybe not this year, but going forward.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting. I put on the thumbnail like this. The roster is loaded. What a roster, man. It's just such a great. Like you look at it and it's like, man, they've got the skill. They've got their quarterback. You've got proven guys at wide receiver. You got proven guys on the offensive line. You've got a running back room that is obviously very, very intriguing. We'll get to the defense next week, but man, it's just what a roster. Marcus Freeman, what a job of just building up this program. It used to be, like we said, you'd have 9 guys. Look at this offensive line that they have. They've done a very, very good job. So it's a very exciting time. It's a very exciting spring to be going into track, right? Not necessarily we're going to find out, to get super excited, but just to hear little nuggets about like the running backs or the wide receivers or whatever it might be, the competitive nature of what the spring is going to be extremely high. When we get to the DBs, we'll talk about the matchups against the wide receivers from the cornerbacks and the safeties and everything. The compete level in the spring for Notre Dame is going to be very, very high. So I think we can end it there. Thank you everyone for tuning in today. If you like what you heard, hit that like button, hit subscribe, hit the notification bell. So whenever it is, we'll be going live. We'll be back on Thursday. Talk about the defense in the spring and what's going on the defensive line. Got a ton of defensive linemen. I think it was 21 that I saw. And so we got a lot of defensive linemen to talk about, safeties, linebackers, and we've got some coaching stuff to kind of fold into that conversation as well. So have a good rest of your day, everyone. We will talk to you on Thursday. Keep hitting and hustling.